Thank you for joining us for Working Through the Word, a ministry of the Richmond Church of Christ. Let's join our pulpit minister, Mike Johnson, as he brings today's lesson.
The text you just heard is probably well known to you. You've probably heard it mostly at the time of a funeral, as it helps those who are gathered there with their minds having lost a loved one. What I think sometimes is missed in the text is the context that produced it. Oftentimes, because of the way our Bibles have been arranged, the chapters cause us to lose a thought to begin a new one. In fact, were we to read straight through from what is chapter 13 into chapter 14, we'll find a context that really helps with this passage. Jesus had been with his disciples now for maybe 3 years. He was preparing them for the time that he was going to leave. But it seems as though they didn't quite get it. They could not wrap their minds around it, that he was going to be gone. But in this event in chapter 13 of washing their feet and then talking to them, and he said, I'm going to go away, and you're not going to see me anymore. Wait, Lord, we're not going to let this happen. Oh yeah, I'm going. Let not your heart be troubled. Their realization that they finally heard was, he's leaving, he's gone, nothing we can do. I wonder, is what they were feeling, knowing that Jesus, who had been with them, was going to leave, is it any different really than the feeling that you and I have often, I'm sure, that is he here? Is he around? Is this true? Can I trust it? Is there something after this life? I would suggest that there are many people whose feelings of not being near Jesus, not being around him, not having a concept of his presence might lead to the same troubling thoughts that these disciples had when they came to understand that Jesus was leaving them. You've heard it said, as I mentioned earlier, we're all going to the same place, we're just taking different routes. As it relates to the idea that it is possible for us to design our own path to the Lord with respect to accepting certain things that he says or not accepting them and deciding for myself what is real, then I would say that's wrong. We can't all be going to the same place, taking different routes that don't all include what Scripture teaches. But I wonder, is it not the case that while we are all headed to the same place, that we must go different paths as we climb that mountain? Our year's theme is to encourage us, inspire us, remind us to climb the mountain set before us. The summit is where we want to be. The summit appears at the end of our time when we can look full on into the face of God and realize it was worth the journey. And yet, while we're all trying to get to that place, that summit, we're all going on the path in different ways. This morning, I want us to examine from this text the same place. But then tonight to admit that each of us has a different path. Briefly this morning in John 14, let's learn about the same place. This place, Jesus said, is called a house. When you think about a house, what do you think about? Think about what comes to your mind when you say, I have a house. You remember the first house that you bought after you were married? Maybe you moved from an apartment and into a house, and all of a sudden it's something different. It just represents something solid and real and personal. The apartment just never seems to be yours. And yet the house says, this is mine. It's just real. And it's exciting. Jesus said that this house is called by two names. It is my Father's house. When you think about Father's house, and you think about going home, maybe you could remember the years when you went off to college. And then you had an opportunity to go back home to my Father's house. Maybe you'd spent time away, extended period in military service, or in some kind of way that kept you gone for an extended period. And it felt so good to go to your Father's house. There have been times that I've heard, particularly of young ladies who just want to go home because in Father's house, it just feels so secure, and it's right, and it's good. It's the Father's house. But Jesus also admitted it's the Son's house. Now, when I think of the Father's house, maybe that takes away some of the dread of death. Because after death is the Father's house. But it's also the Son's house. Maybe the Son's house says, oh, now I can have a hope and I can be reminded, or I can think of and I can be inspired by an inheritance that is coming. For Paul wrote in Romans chapter 8 that we have an inheritance with the Son. Don't be troubled. Come to my house with me and my Father. So what kind of house is it? Let not your heart be troubled. Maybe you came today with a troubled heart. Maybe there's something going on in your life that's very difficult, hard to manage, doesn't make any sense. It hurts. Jesus said, don't be troubled. Jesus said, be at peace. The thought of the house should give peace while we're waiting for that house. Be comforted. These disciples who now understood Jesus is leaving, they also heard him say, you will be with me. Oh, we're going to be reunited? We get together again? It ought to give you comfort that though death causes a separation here, it makes a connection there with Him. And it's a known place. Verse 4, Jesus said, you know it. It's not a mystery. The Bible clearly states and helps us to know that heaven is real. Well, there are many people who oppose it and who deny it and who don't want it to be real. Oh no, Jesus says it's real. And these disciples knew about it. And it's that knowledge that later would help them finally understand. So who gets to go to that house? Those whose hearts are already there get to be in that house. Don't let your heart be troubled. If you can have a peaceful heart, if you can have an understanding heart, if your heart rests there, then you get to go there. And if your mind is there, you get to go there. This word know means to come to understand what is not seen by looking at the things I can see. Therefore, by looking around, we can see heaven. It's the same place. All of us can be there. But it's my place. It's your place. Each of us design our own homes the way we want them to look. It has our stamp. It has our image. It has who we are. That's our house. Notice what Jesus said. There are many My version says mansions. There are many houses there, dwelling places. This word's a little bit difficult to understand, but it's used twice in the New Testament. Will you look at this? Look at verse 23 of this same chapter. Notice what Jesus says to them. If anyone loves me, he'll keep my word. My Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our dwelling place with him. Same word. There are many dwelling places there, but I'll dwell with you here. In other words, is Jesus saying, I'm going to prepare a place for you? We think of him going as in leaving, and that's true. But notice what it's also saying. Since we will come and make our dwelling place with you, he is saying, I'm going to prepare your place there while I'm with you here. Because while preparing the place there, I'm preparing you for that place. That's why heaven is a prepared place for a prepared people. You can't go to heaven. You can't be in that place if Jesus is not with you now. If he is not dwelling with you in this place, you will not be with him in that place. For he will take you to that place to be with him. It's a prepared place. Yes, Jesus is building it there. But guess where he's getting the building materials? From me, from you. We're sending them ahead. Don't lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust corrupt, where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not corrupt, where thieves do not break through and steal. For where your heart or your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We're all going to the same place. But in that same place are many dwelling places being constructed by Jesus himself with the materials that we're sending to him. You're not going to have a mansion if you send ahead 3 poles and a piece of canvas. You want a prepared place that fits you, that you want? Send it ahead. But finally, It's your place because it will be your intention and my intention to be there. I won't be there by accident. Nobody will. I love this statement from C.S. Lewis, who said, "All who are in heaven are those who have said to God, 'Thy will be done.'" It's intentional. And all of those who are not in heaven are people who have said to God, or who God has said to them, "Thy will be done." For if I do not intend to be there, following His will, then it is my intention not to be there, following my will. So will I say to Him, "Thy will be done," and be in that place? Or will He say to me, "Thy will be done"? You're not going to be in that place. The disciples were comforted by the thought of heaven. Are you? Are we comforted by that thought because Jesus is now dwelling in us? Through our submission, we take Him on in baptism, making us a house of the saved where Jesus dwells. If not, then I imagine you're troubled, or should be, so that you will change. You want to go to that place? You want to make it what it can be by the lives that we live, sending those materials onward? We'll help you. Because all of us are going there. We want to go there. Together, we can be there. Will you? If you're ready to begin that journey with the Lord, or start over a journey which you once started and quit, today we offer you an opportunity while we stand and sing together.
We hope that you enjoyed today's broadcast, brought to you by the Richmond Church of Christ. We are located at 1500 Lancaster Road in Richmond, Kentucky. We meet at 9 a.m. each Sunday morning for Bible class, followed by our morning worship service held at 10 a.m. Our Sunday evening service is held at 6 p.m. Our midweek Bible study is held on Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you are in the area, we would love to have you as our honored guest. Thanks for listening.